Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Miller. Every week, I chat with fascinating people from all walks of life in order to bring you knowledge, inspiration, and insight. If you enjoy the show, you can support it by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. This is the Jeremy Miller Podcast. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast. I'm coming at you with another solo episode today because I really wanted to recap my most recent race, the Nightcrawler, which ended up being my very first win at a race ever. I've never even come close to winning a race, never even went into a race thinking I could win a race, and we came out with the dub. So I want to recap the experience with you guys, share some of the lessons I learned, talk about things that I went through that hopefully you can avoid in any of your upcoming races, and hopefully provide some knowledge and lessons for you guys for any endurance events that you might have coming up. So learn from my mistakes, learn from my successes, hopefully, and hopefully you guys can take something away from this episode. So I'm going to dive into what the race is, how it went, recap as much as I can, all the ups and downs, and then talk about at the very end, like really just hammer home some of the lessons I learned, because I learned so much. I think every race that I've ever done, I learned something. Every race that you do, whether you win, you lose, you DNF, you hit your goal, whatever it is, I think there's always a lesson to be learned. You just got to look for them sometimes. So share all that with you guys, and so sit back, relax, enjoy the episode, and we'll dive into it right now. So first off, what is the Nightcrawler? The Nightcrawler is a 12-hour endurance challenge in my hometown of Casper, Wyoming. This was actually the very first race that I ran, the very first official race that I ran back in 2020, and back then I had no clue what I was doing. I was brand new to running. I'd maybe been running it was less than 2 years for sure. So not brand new, but I'd never actually done a true race, and I was just a rookie. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was running maybe 10 miles a week, very inconsistently. I'd never run more than 10 miles before, and I saw that this race was in my hometown, this 12-hour race. You basically have 12 hours to run as many miles as you can. It's around an 8-mile trail loop. Each loop has about 1,000 feet of elevation gain. It's very twisty, turny, ups, downs, rolling the whole time. You're in the trees in the mountains almost the entire time, so it all looks very similar. And it's a tough course. And 2020, I thought that, if David Goggins, my biggest inspiration at the time, if he can run 100 miles in 24 hours without training, then surely I could go run 50 miles in 12 hours. Logical, I think, right? That didn't turn out very well. Well, sort of. I ended up running 43 miles back in 2020. I made it 43 miles with I don't know, basically no training, no experience, no ultra experience. I remember I have a YouTube video of it on my YouTube channel, and it's just hilarious looking back at it now, because it was all about suffering. It was all about, I think I called the video, "If it sucks, we must do it." And some of my buddies and I were getting into endurance sports and ultras and stuff. And we had this David Goggins, hardo, savage mindset of if we're going to do it, it's got to be hard. And pick the hardest thing we can find and let's just go do it. And it was fun at the time because it was all new and it was something fun to train for and do with my friends. But it was just, it was more negative, I feel like. And the whole race was just oh, this is going to suck. This is going to be suffering, and we're just going to have to do it and grit through it. And I made it 43 miles, which is great for my first race. And I'm very happy with it. And it gave me a lot of confidence to keep running, to keep trying to be a runner, whatever that means. But it was just, looking back at this video, it just didn't look like we were having fun. It just looked like we were in it to suffer, I guess. And my mindset was totally different this time around. I signed up for this race 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm in much better shape now. I've been doing lots of trail running this summer, lots of ultra stuff. I did my 50 miler in March. I did my 100 miler in June. lots of long trail runs, lots of like long 10, 12-hour days out in the mountains. And I'm definitely just in way better shape this year. So I think being in better physical shape definitely makes it a more enjoyable experience because you're suffering less. You're in less discomfort. You can actually like enjoy the race. You can get more out of it. And I think if you're not a runner or you're newer to running and you look at people and it looks like they're having fun while they're doing a marathon or a 100-miler, and you're like, how are they smiling? How are they enjoying themselves? And I think a lot of it is just like you're in better physical shape, because if you're just hurting the whole time and your body is like resisting because you're just new to this sport and this activity, it's a heck of a lot different experience versus when your body's used to it and you can just go out and kind of enjoy it and be in the mountains and whatever race you're doing and just be more present, I think, and not have to suffer quite as much. So I think being in better physical shape definitely helps, obviously. But knowing that this is a smaller race, when I ran it back in 2020, I want to say there was 40 to 60 people. This year when I signed up, I saw there was like 65 people or something on the entrance list. And so it's not a huge race by any means, but because Wyoming doesn't have a lot of ultras, it actually pulls a lot of people from like Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, surrounding states that are just looking for tough mountain races. And there's not a lot this time of year. There's not a lot in Wyoming, especially. So you actually get a lot of like pretty good runners. And I don't know how much you guys know about ultra sign up, but if you've run an ultra before, basically it's like a sign up registration website, similar to like Run Sign Up or some of these other, marathon type websites. And each time you run a race, I don't know what their algorithms are, but they give you a score of like how you place, how difficult the race was, comparing to other runners that did the race. And I think based on previous races that I've done, this on the entrance list put me at like 7th or 8th place. It's kind of like a guess that Ultra Sign Up does. So I was towards the top, 7th or 8th place, going into the race and expected to finish basically. And I was like, you know what? I know this course really well. I've been training a lot this summer. I'm in great mountain ultra marathon shape. And I think I could go out and potentially win this race. I didn't post anything about it because I didn't want to like jinx myself. And it was kind of just this secret goal that I had going into the race. Didn't have any like set amount of miles I wanted to try and run. But I was like, I'm just going to run as many miles as I need to hopefully win this thing. And that's what we ultimately went out and did. So I'm very happy with it. So we ended up, here's the race stats total. 51 miles in 12 hours, 6,800 feet of elevation gain, 6,800 feet of elevation loss. And I came out with no injuries, no like real true soreness or anything. Like I felt great. I felt great the whole race, besides one moment, which we'll get into. If you follow me on Instagram or YouTube, you probably already know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was like, I think it was a very well executed race. My crew was my mom, the best crew member in the world. She also helped crew. She's crewed, I think, at every ultramarathon I've ever done. She's always there no matter what, so I can't thank her enough. And it was actually the night of her 50th birthday. So the race started at 6:30 p.m. and went to 6:30 a.m. And her birthday was, she turned 50 overnight, basically, while she was out there crewing me. So thanks, Mom, if you're listening or watching this, for being out there on your birthday, missing a whole night of sleep to help crew me and feed me gels and refill my water. I couldn't have done it without you. Second place ended up taking, I think they ended up running 46 miles. They don't have the results posted just yet, so I can't see. But from what I remember at the race, I think second place had 46 miles. So I had a 5-mile lead, which was great. And yeah, just a very well executed race. Let me dive into kind of how the race played out. There's one very crucial moment that I'm excited to get into. But yeah, this was definitely the first race I've ever won. First race I've ever even gone into thinking I might win. And so it kind of took a whole other strategy that I'm not quite used to. Usually when I'm going into a race, I'm like, let's just finish this thing. And I might have a time goal or a distance goal or something. But actually like going out and like having some strategy as it pertains to like trying to beat other people. I've never done that before. So it was just a totally different experience, and it was fun. It added like a whole new element to the race, which was cool. But because of that, I went out too fast, for sure, way too fast. I was at the front of the pack when the race began, and I think there was like 2 guys in front of me, and they were cruising. You gain like 500 feet within the first 2 miles or so it's like pretty steep, and we just ran the whole thing. Like normally I'd probably be power hiking that, but we were just running. I was sweating, heart rate was already high, and I'm like, man, I know I'm going out too fast, but I want to keep up with the lead pack. I don't want them to get too far ahead of me, and I probably shouldn't have done that in hindsight. I probably didn't need to. Definitely didn't need to in hindsight, but I did it anyways. And I just felt like not good for the first hour or two. And my nutrition plan for every race, every training run ever is take a gel every 30 minutes. And we got to that first 30-minute mark, and a gel just sounded terrible. My stomach was like full. My heart rate was really high. I'm also coming from basically sea level here in Austin, straight up to 8,300 feet up in the mountains. I didn't have any time to acclimate or anything, so I could feel the elevation quite a bit, and I just didn't feel very good. I also ate or drank a banana fruit smoothie like 2.5 hours before the race started. A huge smoothie. It was, I don't know, probably like 30 or 40 ounces. Way too big of a smoothie to be drinking that close to a race. And I just didn't give my body and my stomach enough time to process it, I think. And so I have this smoothie sitting in my throat. I'm at elevation, not quite acclimated. I'm pushing probably way too hard at the beginning of the race. I'm a little nervous because I'm trying to push and win this race. So there's a lot of elements, and I just didn't feel very good. So 30 minutes in, tried to take a gel, or I thought about taking a gel, didn't end up taking it. I was like, all right, let's just wait till the hour mark. Maybe everything will settle down. Got to the hour mark, same thing. Knew I needed to take a gel, but just didn't feel like I could. And I'm like, man, I've got 12 hours to run. If I got to get fuel in, otherwise I'm going to bonk later on if I can't start fueling. So I forced a gel down. It was a Morton. Never had any issues with Morton. Never had any stomach problems during a race ever. This is my first time ever having stomach issues. So this is all new. This is happening within the first hour. I got the gel down. Felt about the same. Just kind of sick. Didn't feel great. Just very full. And then, so it's 8-mile loops. I finished the first 8-mile loop about an hour and 20 minutes. So I sat down for a quick sec, refilled my water, grabbed more gels, and took off. Didn't say anything to my mom or anybody else. I was just like, okay, my stomach's feeling weird, but I think it should go away. So just internalize that. And then got to the 90-minute mark. Still didn't feel like taking a gel. I was like, all right, maybe I'll just wait till the 2-hour mark. And then by this time, it started getting dark out. And because we started at 6:30 p.m., like I mentioned earlier. So it started getting dark. The sun was setting. Hit the 2-hour mark. Tried taking another gel. This was the Spring Energy Awesome Sauce. Don't get me started on Spring Energy, but it's 80 calories roughly. They taste good. It's fuel. So I wanted to switch it up and see if I could get one of those down. And I got it down, but then about, I don't know, 30 to 45 seconds later, I'm still running, and I just feel this like the retching coming on. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to throw up. I just kept running. I thought it might go away. And in the middle of running, it just came out of me. I had to pull over off the side of the trail. There's people in front of me, people behind me. I didn't want to puke on them, obviously. So pulled off to the side of the trail, heaved and puked a good bit once. Thought it was going to be done. Kept walking for a bit. Puked again. Kept walking for a bit. Pulled out my phone, took a video of the third one because I was like, you know what? I'm out here running this and throwing up in the middle of the race. This feels like something I should maybe document. So got a good video of the third one that's on my Instagram and my YouTube if anybody cares to watch me vomit. I apologize if you have already seen it. But threw up 3 times. And I've never felt so crappy in the middle of a race. I'm like, dude, we're 2 hours into this 12-hour race. We're like 10 or 12 miles in. We've got a long ways to go. And I'm already puking. I can't get gels down. Even like trying to drink water or electrolytes, I couldn't do it. And I was only like 2 miles from like the start finish area. And I'm like, man, I could just walk back and just call it quits. And, take it a DNF essentially and say, you know what, it wasn't my day. I was having stomach problems and we're just not going to keep running. But as I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? It's a long race. A lot can happen. A lot can change. Let's just walk. Let's just slow our pace for a bit. We'll just drink some water, sip on some water. Maybe we'll get some like Coke or ginger ale at the next aid station and see if this thing goes away. But all these things are going through my head. And I'm like, did I eat something weird? Did I like drink some bad milk? Did I like, what is going on with my stomach? Like, I couldn't figure it out. I've never had this issue before. Did I get like food poisoning from when we ate out the night before? I was trying to remember everything I ate the last like 24 hours. If I might have gotten sick from somebody, and I just couldn't think of anything other than like the smoothie thing. And all this is going through my head, and I'm just like, man, I could be sick. I have every excuse to not keep running. I have every excuse to DNF, to go home, take a shower, rest up, feel better later. But I'm like, you know what? We're in a low right now. Let's just be patient, and maybe it'll go away. So I just kept walking. I gave it a good like hour before taking any gels. I was kind of just sipping on some water. At the next aid station, I had a Sprite and some Coca-Cola. And I think the carbonation and just a little bit of calories kind of helped. But I still was iffy on the gels. And so I think it was like an hour to 90 minutes after throwing up that I finally tried taking another gel. I started to feel a little bit better. And then got the gels down fine. The sickness feeling went away. And I was able to pick my pace back up. And I felt much, much better. The first 20 miles I ran with this kid named Noah. Noah Westfall, I believe is his last name. This 18-year-old kid from some small town in Wyoming. He like recognized me from Instagram or YouTube and introduced himself to me, and we ran the first 20 miles together. And I like just being with somebody and like having a conversation and chatting with somebody helped so much. And this kid, he's 18 years old, running his very first ultramarathon. He said he like saw my YouTube video from that same race in 2020, and that kind of inspired him to run the race too. So a really cool story. And I ran the first 20 miles with him. And he like, when I was throwing up, he kind of like waited on me and was like, dude, you all right? Like making sure I was good. So thanks, Noah. I appreciate it, man. And then, so got some gels down, got some soda, kept running, picked the pace back up, and then around like mile 20-ish, I just all of a sudden I felt really good. I think I just realized like, okay, I think we're back in it. We're back in the game. And I just let out this big like primal scream, like a yee-hoo, something like that in the middle of the mountains. It's like close to midnight at this point, and or maybe not that late. It's probably like 10 or 11 p.m., but it was dark out in the middle of the mountains. Just let out this big scream, and I'm like, man, I feel good. I had some adrenaline going, and from there, I just picked up the pace. I think at this point, I was around 5th or 6th place, and I just started picking people off past one guy. That gave me a ton of confidence. I was like, okay, we're feeling good. Let's keep going. Past another person, I'm in like 4th place. Past somebody else, I'm in 3rd place. I was like, okay, I don't think 1st and 2nd place are probably far behind or far ahead now. So kept pushing, passed the guy in 2nd place, passed the guy in 1st place. And around, I think mile 23 is when I moved into 1st place. And when I passed them, they were walking. It was like going up this like slight incline. And I was like, I saw their headlamp up ahead. And I was like, all right, let's just keep pushing. I'd probably normally walk this section, but I know he's right there. I know if I pass him going uphill, just gonna take his soul. So I pressed the gas and passed him and moved into 1st place right around the 24-mile mark. And I was feeling good. I was like, okay, we threw up like 2 hours ago and we just moved into 1st place. We can win this dang thing. So 1st place, 24 miles in, I came into the like main start finish aid station, switched my shoes out. I wore the Saucony Exodus Ultra 3 for the first 24 miles. My first time ever wearing Saucony trail shoes. I love Saucony road shoes, but they had sent me these trail shoes to try out, and I was real iffy on testing them out first time in a race, but I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. If anything, like the way the race is set up, it's easy to switch shoes, after like an hour or something. So wore them for the first 24 miles. Absolutely loved them. I would highly recommend checking out the Saucony Exodus Ultra 3. Very good shoes. I personally prefer a wider shoe for the trails, and these are definitely a bit wider than other shoes I've worn, which is great. Great tread. I think it's a 6mm drop, which is, I think, perfect for the trails. I think that's the same as Speedlands, which is probably my all-time favorite trail shoe. So you don't get too big of a drop. They're nice and wide. They feel stable, good amount of cushion and support. So I'm a big fan of those Saucony shoes. But at the 24-mile mark, roughly around halfway, I wanted to just switch into some fresh shoes, and I switched to the Speedlands. Freaking love the Speedlands. I think probably one of the best trail shoes of all time. There's just something about them that they feel so natural, and the BOA system is amazing. When I have to go and lace up a pair of shoes after using the BOA system, it feels like I'm like a caveman, like I'm stepping back in time to like the Stone Age, having to manually lace up my shoes instead of just twisting the BOAs. So what a privilege it is to have the BOA system. Mile 24, switched out shoes, went out for another 8-mile lap. And the cool thing with the way this race is set up is it's a washing machine style. So like it's an 8-mile loop, but each 8-mile loop you reverse and go back the other way. So you're basically doing like out and backs essentially the whole time. So you go one direction, one way, and you finish that loop, and then you go back that same way. So you're always alternating directions. And because of that, say I come into the aid station first, I do my thing at the aid station, I leave the aid station, I can see the other runners coming back in because now I'm going against the grain of where they're coming in, so I can see how big of a lead I have. And at this point, I had maybe like a 15-minute lead, which is pretty cool. So I was like, okay, again, gave me more confidence. Maybe we can actually win this thing. But let's keep pushing. Let's see how big of a gap we can make and how big of a lead we can create. So pushed really hard on this fourth lap from mile 24 to 32. Again, came into that main aid station mark at mile 32. As I left, I was like, okay, whenever, like, I can do the math in my head of when I see the next runner coming in for how big of a lead I'm going to have. And I didn't see somebody for like 30 minutes, meaning I had like an hour-long lead ahead of second place. So we were just cruising. I felt so good. And again, this is like 4 or 5 hours after throwing up. So I'm like, we're in a good spot right now. I didn't want to let up. I wanted to just keep pushing the gas, keep getting as big of a lead as I could, because I'm like, if we just create a giant lead, like I get to hour 11 and I can just basically walk the rest of the thing. And so that's kind of my strategy. I think it was at like 2 or 3 a.m. I left one of the aid stations, and one of the volunteers running the aid station was like, hey, just a heads up. I think I saw a mountain lion like a 1/10 of a mile up the trail just a few minutes ago. And I'm like, what? Like, I wish he wouldn't have told me, because then that's all I could think about for the next like 5 hours. I was like, oh shit, I hope I don't see a mountain lion out here. What am I going to do if I see a mountain lion? Like, I'd rather run into a bear or a snake or a fox or some other type of animal. But a mountain lion, I don't know how much you guys know about mountain lions, but you only see a mountain lion if they want you to see them. And usually the only time you're going to see one is if you're about to be attacked. And the guy at the aid station was like, I'm 99% sure it was a mountain lion. All I saw was its tail. He's like, it was a 3-foot long tail walking into the trees, and it had a black tip on it. And that's a dang mountain lion. And so I was a little worried for the next 5 to 6 hours after after hearing that. But we didn't see any mountain lions, fortunately. I was by myself basically the whole race, or the whole back half of the race. And so like every few minutes I'd just yell out like, hey bear, hey mountain lion, whatever, just make some noise, let myself be known on the trails. And I didn't see anything other than a few deer. I saw maybe like probably 4 or 5 different herds of deer. And gosh, they would freak me out every time I'd see them, because it's pitch black outside. All you have is this like beam of light from the headlamp, and you just get this little spot on the ground essentially. And you're looking down for rocks and roots, make sure you're not tripping on anything. And occasionally I just glance up, look around me, and you just see these like sets of eyes in the trees. And again, at this point, I'm worried about seeing a mountain lion. So I'd see these sets of glowing eyes, and I'm like, oh no, what is that? Please be a deer or something. And it always was a deer, fortunately. And there's just a couple deer just chilling in the grass at like 2 a.m, just being cute and harmless. But when you're afraid of mountain lions and bears, seeing eyes is always a little sketchy. So no animals, fortunately, other than some deer. I also saw, I guess, a couple of mice run across the trail, a lot of squirrels, a couple like birds hanging out on the ground. I think those are like grouse or something. But yeah, so that adds an element to it. That's just something running in the mountains a lot of people, I think, don't think about. If you don't run in the mountains a lot, if you don't trail run a lot, like especially a race like this, it's all in the dark. So you're in the dark, you're in the mountains, you're tired, you're sleep deprived. And if you've never done that, it adds all these elements. It adds more mental energy that you have to use. And not only are you running, trying to perform well, but you have these things of like, are there mountain lions? Are there deer? Are there snakes? I don't know. You got to be on the lookout for all these things. And again, because you're in the dark on a trail, you got to make sure you're not tripping on things. I think I only actually stumbled like one time, and I just looked down at my watch for a little bit too long, trying to look at like my mileage or something, and tripped on a rock, caught my toe on a rock, and I didn't fully fall, but like I definitely stumbled, and I was like, okay, snap me back into it, pay attention. So you just can't wander too much. You got to really be paying attention during these races. But yeah, I just each lap that I finished, again, I was able to see how big of a lead I had. Lead kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I came in, finished my 6th lap, which would be 48 miles. And at that point, there was only about an hour left in the race. It was like 11 hours in, and I knew I had the win, but I wanted to try and get at least 50 miles. One, because it just seemed like a good round number to try and hit. And second, my mom jokingly was like, if you don't get 50 miles on my 50th birthday, then you're walking back home. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. So I went out and did another basically 3 miles, just walked most of it just to get the distance. And yeah, we ended up getting 51 miles total. Second place came in at 46 miles. So a great day at the office, you might say. Very happy with my performance, very happy with how everything went. Yeah, first win in the books. I can't complain about it. And, besides the throwing up, I feel like it was a very well executed race. Very happy with everything. But I did learn some lessons, and I'm gonna kind of dive into some of those lessons that I learned now. Lesson number 1 that I learned, and it's the most obvious one, is don't make a decision in the lows. Don't make a decision in the lows. Don't decide to quit. Don't decide to stop when you're feeling down, when you're hurting, when you're in pain, when you're throwing up, whatever it is. Just wait it out. One of my favorite quotes is, don't cut a tree down in winter. If you look out your window in the middle of January and it's 10 degrees outside and it's snowing and your tree looks dead and you're like, crap, I think that tree's dead. There's no leaves on it. There's no color. I think I'm just going to go chop it down. It looks ugly. Who does that? Nobody does that. You don't chop a tree down in the middle of winter because trees are perennial. They're going to come back in the spring. Give it 6 months and it's going to be green and vibrant and full of leaves and full of life. So don't chop a tree down in the middle of winter. Don't make a decision in the low. I wanted to quit. I felt like crap. I was only 2 hours into this 12-mile race. I had no clue how the heck I'm going to get gels down, how I'm going to keep fueling, how I'm going to feel any better than I do right now. But all I knew was just don't make a decision right now. Just be patient. Just wait it out. Give it some time. And just keep moving forward. And I think that's a good segue into the next lesson. And this seems to be a reoccurring lesson that I learn in every race that I do. And it's just be patient. I am one of the most impatient people on planet Earth. I think most people are nowadays, whether it's from social media or the way our society is, whatever it is, genetic, I don't know. I'm just so impatient. I want things right now. I want to go out and run this 50-mile race and be done with it and say, okay, I ran my 50 miles, I ran my 12 hours, check the box, move on to the next thing. And things in life just don't work like that. And running is such a good teacher of that lesson, that good things take time. You have to be patient. You have to work through the ups and downs. You have to go through the motions. You can't just flip a switch and immediately get exactly what you want. We can't have instant gratification around here. And sadly, I think things like Instagram and social media and fast food and Uber Eats and Amazon all are just worsening this problem of instant gratification and just teaching us like, oh, if I want something, I can get it within a couple hours. I can get it right now. And again, I think running is such a good teacher of that to run a 12-hour race, you can't speed that up. You can't run faster because you're still just going to be running for 12 hours. You have to just be patient and be present. And just one of the biggest lessons I learned. Even when I was like 6-7 hours into this race, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're only halfway. I still have to do what I already did again. It's just, that took so long and I have to do it again. And your brain goes through all these things, and it's this like constant decision making that you have to work through for 12 hours, or for a marathon, for 26 miles, for a half marathon, even a 5K. If you're running, like last weekend, I ran an 18-minute 5K, and it was the longest 18 minutes of my life. I got to the 9-minute mark, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have to go the same distance I already ran. I got to do it again. It's all patience. And running, that's one of the reasons I love running so much, is because it teaches me patience. It teaches me how to just not forward think too much and just be in the present and not overwhelm myself with thinking about, okay, I've already ran 23 miles. I have to run another like 27 miles. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. It teaches you cannot do that. And it translates perfectly to life. You can't think 10, 20 years down the road. You can't be thinking about these bills and all this stuff you have coming up, because it gets overwhelming and you get stressed out. Like, sometimes you just got to be here right now and just be patient. Things play out in the end. Things almost always work out 9 times out of 10. You just got to trust the process. So be patient. Lesson number 3 that I learned was practice like you play. This one, I don't know if I could have anticipated this. I could have just, made the decision to not drink a giant smoothie before running, but most of the time, like 98% of the time when I'm training, I run in the morning, typically on an empty stomach. I run fasted. So I don't run a lot with like heavy food in my stomach. I rarely run in the evening. I rarely eat a big meal and go out for a run. And so because the way this race was, it didn't start till 6:30 p.m. I had to eat breakfast. I had to eat lunch. I had to have like an afternoon snack. And I just didn't. I signed up for this race last minute. I didn't really respect that element of the race. Hence why I threw up, because I ate too much food throughout the day. I ate too much food too close to the race. And I just haven't spent enough time running with a heavy stomach, running late in the day. So let that be a lesson of whatever race you have coming up. If your race starts in the afternoon, then do more of your training runs in the afternoon. If your race starts in the morning, if you're going to have to fuel, this time before your run, whatever it is, like practice how you're going to play, train like how you're going to race, and implement as many factors from race day into your training as you can. And I think it's only going to help make race day even easier. So practice like you play, train like you're going to race. And the 4th lesson, and maybe the most important, is how important a crew and support system is. Like I said, my mom was my crew for this. It was just her. The eve of her 50th birthday, decided to come up to the mountain and spend 12 hours giving me gels, refilling my water, putting batteries in my headlamps, switching my shoes out for me. Like, it's so helpful. And there's a lot of people at this race that didn't have a crew because there's so many aid stations and you're coming back to like the start finish so often. Like, you don't really need one, but it helps so much. Basically, and I think part of this too is like planning with your crew, giving them a heads up of this is what I'm going to need. This is what I want at each aid station. Here's where all my stuff is at. So that way in the middle of the race, when things are kind of chaotic and like high strung, you guys aren't like panicking trying to figure it all out. You already have everything established. And so before the race, what I did, I knew I'd be running roughly 8 laps. So I got 8 Ziploc bags. I put the exact number of gels and what gels I wanted in each bag. I put like my 2Before, I put my electrolytes, I put like my Morton drink mix, anything I might need in each of these bags. And I numbered them 1 through 8. And then I just said, Mom, here's my 8 Ziploc bags. If it, like when I come into each lap, if you could just grab the number of bag, the number of lap I'm on, give me that one, I'll be good. So I told her roughly when I'd be coming in to each lap. She was already there. She had my Ziploc bag, number 1, number 2, number 3. And we just swapped out the gels, swapped a headlamp if I needed to, swapped shoes if I needed to. It was so easy. And in and out of aid stations very, very quickly. I think people spend way too long at aid stations. I get why. It's like it's comfortable. You get to sit down. You get to talk to people. You're not running. It's like a very nice, chill environment. And you get to relax. But you can't take the bait. You can't spend too long at aid stations. The faster you are in and out, it keeps that urgency. It keeps you moving. And it just saves you so much time. And it's all about like the energy that you're putting into the race. If you're coming in just waiting to get to that next aid station so you can sit down and hang out for a bit, you lose all that urgency and you lose that like pep in your step, I think. So it's just like how you do anything is how you do everything. If you come into the aid station prepared, ready to go, get your stuff ready, get out, get back on the course, keep moving forward. It's huge. I did that at my 100-mile race in June. I think average aid station time there was probably 5 minutes. And I've seen some people spend 20 to 30 minutes at an aid station. You can't be doing that. In and out real quick. And a big part of that is preparing with your crew beforehand, telling them exactly what you want, exactly what you need, and just over planning. Plan more than you think you need to, because inevitably in the midst of the chaos of a race, people are going to forget things. You're going to overlook things, and things are going to get missed, and hopefully not ruin your race, but it could. I've seen it happen before. So crew is so important. Having a good support system and planning with them is so important. And so I was just reminded of that again. But yeah, guys, that's the Nightcrawler recap. Hopefully you got something out of this. I want to go over real quick just the lessons learned again. Never make a decision in the low. Never cut a tree down in the middle of winter. Be patient. Practice like you play. Train like you race. And have a good support system, a good crew, and plan with them ahead of time. Always something to be learned from these races, whether it's from the wins or the losses, whatever it is, always lessons to be learned. I hope you guys enjoyed this. There's going to be a YouTube video about this probably this week or next week. I'm recording this on August 26th. So hopefully before the end of August, I should get the YouTube video out, but I'll keep you posted on that. I got lots of recaps and photos and stuff on my Instagram and some shorts out on YouTube right now. But I appreciate you guys all so much for the support. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoy these solo episodes, let me know. They're pretty easy for me to knock out, to be honest. And I'm starting to get more comfortable with them. I love the guest episodes. I really do. But I've just been traveling so much. I got literally one day here in Austin and we're traveling again tomorrow. So just like no time to schedule guests and get them in here. So going to be some guest episodes coming up soon once I'm settled down with all this traveling. But for now, might be a little bit more solo episodes. If you guys enjoy them, let me know. If you hate them, also let me know. And I won't be doing them as much. But hopefully you guys got something out of this. Thanks for tuning in. Couldn't do this without you guys' support. And I love you all. So we'll see you in the next episode. Peace. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you in the next one.